Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to make the butterfly wind chime. The butterfly, the dragonfly, and the hummingbird wind chimes are all built the same way. I'm going to show you a couple tips and tricks along the way. The bottom line is you can put this together any way you'd like. I have just found a couple things that have been really helpful. So I have the kit comes with all of these things. It comes with the butterfly in the top part, comes with monofilament, the metal chimes, the glass chimes, the bell. This is actually the clacker in the center, strand of beads, and then larger beads. So let's get started. You will need scissors and a pair of pliers. Okay, so I've got my scissors. I actually like to cut my monofilament with wire cutters. To me, it just seems easier. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the chimes first. I'm going to build each chime individually, and then I'm going to attach everything to the top part here. So for the chime part, I'm going to cut the monofilament 18 inches long. Monofilament is slippery, so one of the reasons, I'll show you the knot that I like. I always cut more than I need because it's really hard to tie a knot with just something that's too short. So I'm going to cut 18 inches of my monofilament. I'm going to slip it through the top hole of the chime. And I'm going to put what I call a floating bead on. It's decorative. You can add any of these smaller beads that you'd like. They're glass, they're pretty, the colors pop. So I'm going to put this bead on. I'm going through the hole in the bead, so I'm doubling up my monofilament, going through the hole of my bead. And then to make that bead float, I'm going to go back through the same direction. I'm going to pull tight. And you can see how that bead stays there and floats. I can still move it a little bit after this. Typically what I'll do when I've got my chime all together and it's hanging, I'll just go around and add a little dab of glue to each of the beads and the knots for extra security. So I'm going to measure 4 inches from the top of the chime, and I'm going to tie an overhand knot right here. This knot becomes important when I'm attaching it to my butterfly because it makes sure that I'm measuring properly. So I tied a pretty tight knot there. And again, I can move this bead wherever I like. So I'm going to complete the other 3 chimes, and then I'll show you how to do the glass parts. I've got my 3 metal chimes done with the beads that are floating. So I'm going to leave those there, and now I'm going to work on attaching the glass chimes. This is the top chime. They're going to kind of look like this, and I'm going to add one of these beads in the center. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to attach this chime the exact same way that I did these. I'm going to go ahead and cut 18 inches of monofilament. Put it through the chime. This one does not get a floating bead. I'm going to tie a knot right here at the very top of this piece of glass because I prefer it that way. You don't have to, but I did not like the 2 monofilament lines separating, so I'm going to tie my knot right at the top. And this is what I mean by slippery monofilament. You can see my knot's up here and I really want it all the way down. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the knot, and there you have it. Then I'm going to go ahead and mark off 4 inches, just like I did with the chimes, and I'm going to tie a overhand knot right there. In order to attach this long piece, I'm going to cut a piece of monofilament that's 12 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing with the top of this long piece of glass. I'm putting my monofilament through and even up my ends. I'm going to tie an overhand knot right at the very top. Slide it down as much as you can when you initially tie it, but if not, like I said, just you can see how slippery that is, and that goes right down. I'm going to put a floating bead right here, You don't have to. You can use these beads if you want to. It's kind of what they're there for, at your discretion. I'm putting my floating bead here. And I'm going to measure up 2 inches. And I'm going to tie an overhand knot. That knot's pretty tight. I can move that bead still. Then I'm going to separate my monofilament, and I'm going to tie it. You'll notice there's 2 holes on this piece. One, I have the part that's going to attach to the top of the chime, and this part I'm going to tie here. By putting this knot right here, I can't pull it tightly through the chime if I do it properly. Hang on one sec. I'm going to separate those. And now I've got a good measure here. So I'm going to put 3 knots in this because I don't want it to slip apart. 2, 3. I'm going to pull those very tightly. And then I will have my chime, and I'll cut the bits off as well. I'm going to finish the other 2, and then I'll show you how to do the center strand. Okay, I've completed my 3 glass bits of chimes, and I've got my 3 metal bits of chimes completed. Now I'm going to show you how I do the center chime. I want to remind you again, you are welcome to put the beads on. Sometimes I like a little extra bling, sometimes I like it pretty plain. So let's go ahead and cut these, because I'll add a few to the center string to show you how. So with the center string, there's 2 parts. Firstly, I'm going to attach this part, and this is really the part that's going to hit these chimes if all goes well. So I'm going to cut another 12 inches of monofilament, actually 18 inches, right here. I'm going to loop it around the top part of this. And just like I have with all the other bits, I'm going to go ahead and put my slip knot right up close to here. Oh, I can hear the church bells. It's so pretty out here. We're again in the studio yard. I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot about 4 inches up. And that's my overhand knot. Okay. That's the center there. I'm going to now attach this bell to this part. And for this, I need more monofilament. I'm going to cut 3 feet, 36 inches of monofilament. You have plenty in your kit. I'm going to put this through the bell. Check to make sure as well that this is completely closed. We're going to tie it pretty tightly on there, but if not, take your pliers and close that, so it doesn't fall off. I think it has a nice sound to it as well. Okay, I'm going to find my center. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and put my knot right here, and then I'm going to cinch it down. We've got phones going, we've got church bells, we've got wind chimes. It's a plethora. Okay, you can see how that knot is now nestled right on top of that metal piece. Okay, if you want to, in fact I will, I'm going to add a couple of beads here. And I'm pretty random when I do these. Let me get a couple out. So I would just add beads this way if I were going to do it. I'm not going to bead this whole thing because it would take a while, but you get the gist. I'll also show you how to put a couple of floating beads on there one more time. So those beads can, I'll add a couple more because it'll be pretty once I've started. Okay, I'm going to put a floating bead right about here. And again, I'm going back through the bead in the direction that I first went through. I'm going to pull it pretty tight, and that creates a floating bead. So I've added this large bead. I made this a floating bead just like I've done with all the other ones, and I wanted to show you how to, you can even make these smaller beads float, and you're going to do that the exact same way. Ooh, get that in there. I'm going right back through the holes. There we go. And once I put one floating bead on, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I kind of want those to float in between the larger beads. Once I put one on, I can just stack the beads on top of that. So that's going to hold all the other little beads that I put on. Again, make it yours. You have plenty of beads of both sizes to do whatever you'd like to do. Glasses come in handy. These butterflies and the dragonflies and the hummingbirds have such a pleasant sound. It's not an obnoxious sound, which I kind of like. Okay, so those can float like that. And then I'll put another larger bead right up here and float that as well. There we go. So the distance between the top of this bell and the bottom of this clacker is 10 inches. I'm going to go ahead and tie an overhand knot right here at 10 inches. Pull it tight, and then I'm going to tie this to the bottom part of the clacker. And again, when I put that overhand knot in, I can't cinch it up too tight, which is the point. 1, 2, 3. Pull that really tight and then cut off the bits. So that's my center part. I've got the bell, I've got the clacker, and I have my top knot. Now I'm going to show you how to attach all of these bits to the top. Your kit comes with the dragonfly or the butterfly or the hummingbird already attached to this part. So let me set my ruler aside. Now that I have my top knot on here, which is right here, I can feel pretty confident about putting it right through the center loop. And again, I can't over tighten it. I can't cinch it up so that it's not measured properly. Keep in mind it's hand done. You can do anything you'd like and mistakes are okay. I'm going to tie 1, 2, and I'm pulling pretty hard. 3 knots on here, and I'm going to cut that off. Then I'm going to work on my center, my outer chimes. And I want to just remind you to alternate between the metal chime and the glass chime, right? So I've got my metal chime I'm putting on. Again, my knot prevents it from over tightening. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, and tighten that really well. 3, clip that. That's a metal chime. Then I'm going to put one of the glass chimes on here. And again, make sure that all of these loops are completely closed before you tie your chimes on. It's pretty simple, guys, once you get the hang of it and once you do it. 2, 3. Okay. Let me tie the other chimes on and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so this is the finished wind chime. The butterfly, the top part. You can see by measuring the knots from the top of the chime to the top here, they're pretty even. It's not so bad, right? And this clacker hits all the glass, which is what makes the beautiful noise. You can see where I floated the smaller beads as well as the larger beads here. Again, you can bead the whole way up if you'd like to. You'll see on the collective picture of all the wind chimes, the dragonfly chime, I think I beaded the whole center strand and I beaded a lot of the top. You can do whatever you like, but I hope you enjoy. See you next time.